In this video, we are going to study a sustainable management of natural resources. So, what is a sustainable development? How we can sustainably manage our natural resources? So, it's very short chapter. So, in a very our ancient Indian like text have a mention of Vasudev Kutumbakam. This means that the entire earth is a one family. This was also a theme for the G20 like G20 summit which held in India. Vasudev Kutumbakam. It is probably a phrase mentioned in the Maha Upanishad, and this is probably an ancient text of the part of the Atharvaveda. So this Vasudev Kutumbakam is still very used in Indian diplomacy, and this means the entire earth belongs to us. That means the natural resources of our earth belong to us. Let's talk about like some kind of environmental pollutions which happen in the Ganga river, and this so there was this is a map. This shows about the fecal coliform. A coliform is a group of bacteria which is found in the human intestine. So those present in the water, in fact, those presence whose presence in water indicates contamination by disease-causing microorganism. So this human fecal matter contains this fecal coliform, and this shows that if the fecal matter is directly drained into a river without any its treatment, water treatment, then it increases the fecal coliform level. And this chart shows in a Ganga river in different cities the fecal matter before in 2017 and 2011. So there have been many legislation towards the cleaning of the many rivers, and one of them is like Ganga Action Plan. This multi-crore project came in 1985, and this was for the cleaning of Ganga. Like pollution of Ganga, like Ganga has a distance of Ganga runs in India about 200 2500 kilometer, and in Gangotri the Ganga from the Gangotri in the Himalayas to the Ganga Sagar in Bay of Bengal. So in India it has a 25 kilometer 25 kilometers of long Ganga river, and rest is in the Bangladesh. So to protect the Ganga, we also initiated one more thing like Namami Gange program. And Namami Gange program is an integrated conservation mission approved as a flexi program by the Union government in June under the Modi government in June 2014. And to launch it, this was launched to accomplish two objectives. It has a twin objectives. One is like effective abatement of pollution, uh, effective abatement of pollution of uh, pollution conservation, and regeneration of the Ganga river. Two objectives are there. The Ganga river will be regenerated, and the national mission for a clean Ganga is implemented. Uh, is the implementation wing. This is a national mission for Ganga, which will implement these two programs, these two objects, and this implementation mission was set up in 2016. So, tin objective involves reduction in pollution, and second is to revive the Ganga river again. So we can do sustainable management by, we have a principle of 4R. If you want sustainable management of the our natural resources, because our natural resources are very limited, and once they will end, like everything will be gone. So we have this 5R, and 1R is refuse, reduce, reuse, repurpose, and recycle. Refuse is simply saying no, and to no to the those offerings and those things which you don't need. We simply refuse those resources which you don't need. Second is reduce. We should reduce, like saving electricity by switching off the unnecessary light, fans, saving water, and by repairing leaks, taps, don't wasting of food. So these are the reducing the consumption of the natural resources. And then reuse. Something can be reused again and again by recycling them in a better way. And like plastic bottles can be used, there are many jars, we have in our kitchens, or whenever we purchase new items, this can be reused in various storing items in kitchen and all that thing. Like glass pot, flower pot can be created by some plastic old, broken mug. Then repurpose is like, oh, this is a reuse multiple time, and repurpose has some different meaning that I just told you about. The old items can be repurposed, like cracked crockery or like cups, bottle can be used to grow the small plants. This is for the repurpose. The purpose has to change the purpose. So this was the for the reusing the again, and for repurpose, suppose I have a bucket and in which I used to store water. Suppose it got broken from here, and this bucket can be repurposed by planting a like flower on it. Then recycle is there, like collecting the plastic, paper, glass, metal items, and recycle them. So the material, these are the 5R, which if you we should adopt it, and this is how we can sustainably manage our natural resources. Why do we need to manage our resources? Because they are not for, like, they are not infinite, they are limited, and this is why we have to use it very carefully and judiciously. Let's talk about the forest and wildlife. Forests are the biodiversity hotspot, and one measure of the biodiversity of an area is the number of species found there. However, the range of different life forms, bacteria, fungi, ferns, flowering plants, and nematodes, insects, birds, reptiles, so on, found is also important. And one main aim of conservation is try and preserve the biodiversity that we have inherited. Experiments and field studies suggest that lot of loss of biodiversity may lead to the loss of ecological sustainability. So, who are the stakeholders in this conservation? The people who live near, and who get affected, and who are a stakeholder, and who has a responsibility to save the nearby forest. The people who live in and around the forest are dependent on the forest, and the forest department of the government who owns the land, the forest land, and controls the resources of the from the forest. The industrialist, like from whom uh, from those who use tendu leaves to make beedies. So there are some like leaves which is used in some beedi and smoking things. The wildlife and natural enthusiasts who want to conserve the nature in its pristine form. So these are the stakeholders. We can also think of more stakeholders also. And vast tract of the forest has been covered into the monocultures of pine, teak, and eucalyptus. What happened during the British period? Like before the British, like before the British period, there was a diversity of species of the plant species in the wild animals. Now, what the Britishers did for their own purpose for their own gain and exporting the rocks, exporting of woods, they did a plantation of a same plantation of a same species of a plant. So this was a monoculture. Mono means one, culture means like growing of some plants. So monoculture of the pine, teak, eucalyptus, and they also destroyed the large amount of biodiversity in our area. So if you have visit some like Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand, you will see large number of pines and pine tree will be there, because this was like not natural, and it was planted during the colonial period. So there are some harmful, this is because it destroys the natural biodiversity, and also kill off the many different species and animals depends on the different types of trees and all that, and their habitats are different. And this also loss in the biodiversity, and also in both animals and in trees also. Then for example, in case of, there are some conservation movements now, like during the British time, like when they were like destroying the forest for the timber. So there was some like conservation movement which rose in India. And the first one is a Bisnoi community, which Bisnoi movement. And in the case of, in this case, the Bisnoi community living in the western Rajasthan on the border of the Thar Desert, conservation of the forest and wildlife is a religious tenet for them. So these also initiated some kind of initiatives and preservative efforts by conserving their nearby wildlife. Another thing we see in Uttarakhand, which is like government of India has recently like from the Vishnu Devi community, the government of India has also recently instituted a Amrita Vishnu Devi National Award for the wild conservation in the memory of Amrita Devi Bisnoy, who in 1731 sacrificed her life along with the 363 others for the protection of this tree, Khejri tree, in a Khejrali village in the Jodhpur, Rajasthan. So they women's like protected the mass destruction of the this tree, and this is why we, our government also recognize and has form created, instituted an award, Amrita Devi Bisnoy National Award for conservation. Another type of conservation effort we see in Uttarakhand, where you must have heard about the Chipku movement, hugging the tree, which means this was happened in a remote village called Rani in Garhwal in early 70s. So Britishers through contractors like have permitted the mass destruction of the trees, and so these some nearby villages when they are in the forest and they hug these trees. And this was to save, local communities saved the cutting down of this tree, and this was like major turning point in the, in terms of conservation movements in India, particularly after independence. So this movement was quickly spread across the community and media and forced the government to whom the forest belongs to rethink their priorities to use the forest produce. And experience has taught people that the destruction of the forest affected not only just availability of the forest product but also the quality of the soil and soil resources of water. Participation of the local people can indeed lead to a efficient management of forest. Uh, So in Himachal Pradesh and also in Uttarakhand, we see a different type of water harvesting, water irrigation canals. We have a canals there, irrigating canals. From the source of water, these kulas and kuls are, constructed to the different houses, so like water can reach there, and also to their land farmlands also. So these are called small irrigating canals. There is a dam in a Narmada river which is in Narmada Ganga Sagar. uh, the conservation, this Narmada Bachao Andolan saved the Narmada movement about the rising the height of the Sardar Sarovar Dam on the river. So this was the Sardar Sarovar Dam, which is on the Narmada River. So there was also some protest Narmada movement, which is in Madhya Pradesh. Let's quickly read it. Let's talk about dams. We do. Why do we seek to build dams? Why do we need dams to be built? Large dams can also can ensure the storage of the adequate water, not just for irrigation but also for the generating electricity. As we discussed in previous chapter, and those dams which fulfill both purpose of irrigation and generation of electricity, they are called multi-purpose dams. And canal system leading from canal systems leading from these dams can transfer large amount of water over the great distances. This is what happening in the Rajasthan. We diverted lot of river water through the canals, and this is why we are satisfying the water needs in the far western regions of Rajasthan, particularly in districts surrounded by a desert, district in deserts, and for example, Indira Gandhi Canal was brought greenery to a considerable areas of Rajasthan. However, the mismanagement of the water has largely led to the benefits being concerned by the few people, a benefit being cornered by the few people. So there was an Indira Gandhi Dam canal for it, and there is no equitable distribution of water in this through this canal. Thus, the people close to the source grow water intensive crop like sugarcane and rice, while people farther down do not get any water. So this is a canal, which Indira Gandhi Canal, which goes in the Rajasthan, and it's saying that most of the like water will be is used by those who are nearer the river source, and those who are far reaching and they hardly get any water. The view of these people who have been promised benefit, who has been promised benefit which never arrived, and added to the discontentment among the people who has been displaced by the building of the dams and canal network. In a previous chapter, we mentioned about the reasons for opposition of the construction of the dams, such as the Tehri dams on the Ganga River. You must have also read about the protest of the Narmada Bachao Andolan. So, what are the major criticism? Criticism about the dam, large dam addresses in three problems in particular. Like, what are these things? A social problem because they displace a large number of pigeons and then travel without adequate compensation and rehabilitation. This was also happening in case of the Tehri Dam. This is in the Tehri. This is in the Garhwal of Tehri Garhwal in Uttarakhand. So when the dam is built, lot of pigeons and farmlands is get the pigeons and travels get displaced without getting any adequate compensation for or rehabilitation, like rehabilitation like places. Economic problems because they show up huge amount of public money without a generation of the appropriate benefit. So it requires a lot of money for it. Then environmental problem, they contribute enormously to deforestation happens and loss of biodiversity also happens. So this topic tells about the water harvesting. Water is as essential, and we harvest water in particularly a drought-prone area where the rainwater is harvested in many ways. Coals and petroleum. This we have discussed already in previous chapter. An overview of a natural resources management. A sustainable management of the natural resources is a difficult task. In addressing this issue, we need to keep open our mind with regard to the interest of the various stakeholders. We need to accept that the people will act with their own best interest as priority, but the realization that such a self goal will lead to the misery for the large number of the people and the total destruction of our environment is slowly growing. Going beyond laws, rules, regulations, start. We need to start our requirements individually, collectively, so that benefits of the development reach everyone now and for all the generation to come. Let's quickly revise it. Like our resources like forest, wildlife, water, coal, petroleum need to be used sustainable manner because they are limited. And when we reduce pressure on our environment by sincerely applying the maximum refuse, we can sorry it is like we can reduce the pressure of our natural resources by this 5R formula. Refuse those products which we don't need. Reduce is like reducing the quantity. Reusing it again and again. And then repurpose when the one's purpose is like gone, then it can be rethink and the product can be repurposed. The recycling is recycling of like waste, like plastics and papers. This can be recycled. Management of forest resources has been taken into account in the interest of the various stakeholders, and the harnessing of water resources by building dams has a social, economic, and environmental impacts. Three impacts: social, economic, and environmental. Alternative to large dam exist. They do exist, and these are. Uh, let's quickly revise this chapter. Our resources like forest, wildlife, water, coal, petroleum need to be used in a sustainable manner, and we can reduce the pressure on environment by essentially applying the maximum reuse, uh, reduce, reuse, repurpose, recycle in our lives. and management of the forest resource has to take into account the interest of the various stakeholders, and harnessing the water resources by building dams has a social, economical, and environmental implications. An alternative to the large dam exists. These are local specific and may be developed so as to give the local people control over their local resources. Fossil fuels are the coal, which are coal and petroleum, will ultimately get exhausted, and because of their combustion pollutants to our environment, we need to use these resources judicially with the due application of mind. And here ends this chapter.